Cole here with Darren Ganji, and welcome to our new show devoted exclusively to race recaps. We'll be covering world-class competition using every PC and console racing sim that we can find.
Yeah, most of the content you see here is provided by the leagues that they cover. And if you want to see your league on the show, email us at results@insidesimracing.tv to find out how. So what's up first, bud?
Well, as Jessica pointed out, we've got a little behind on our VWTCC Brand Cup coverage.
Yeah, we have.
We'd like to throw a quick apology to everyone that was anticipating those. So let's roll those post-race recaps from both Brno and Brands Hatch.
Sounds like a great place to start.
For the second event in the VWTCC Tour, they headed to Brno, Czechoslovakia for the Brand Cup races that would seat the grid for the live event that happened back in June. Brno is a challenging 3.35 mile or 5.4 kilometer 15-turn track. Let's kick things off with the BMWs. Race 1 would see Danny Engels take the win with Nils Najux in second. Third place would go to Rene Hittel. The second race would be won by Nils Najux. Peter Zonto would finish second. This time, rounding out the podium would be Rene Hittel. Advancing to the finals would be Nils Najux with 18 points, Rene Hittel with 12. Danny Engels would advance with 10 points, and the final BMW driver invited would be Daniel Struck with 9. Next up are the Hondas. Race 1 would go to Thomas Bochka, followed by Gabriel Fernster and Nicholas Bassez. Race 2 would be won by Antoine Preton with Alexander Amatov in second and Thomas Bochka in third. Advancing to the finals in the Honda class would be Thomas Bochka with 16 points, Antoine Preton with 14, Alexander Amatov at 13, and the final invite with Gabriel Fernster with 12. The Seats would be the next class to focus our attention. Victor Szabo would be the winner in race 1 with Gregory de Grief coming in second, and Martin von Bommel rounding out the podium. Race 2 would go to Zsolt Presniak, and Victor Szabo would finish second. Third place would go to Benjamin Forch. This would earn Victor Szabo the top position and an invite to Brno with 18 points. Zsolt Presniak would take second place with 15 points, followed by Gregory de Grief with 13. The last invitee would be Martin von Bommel with 10 points. The final brand at Brno would be the Chevys. Gabor Zaleski would win race 1, and Douglas Lundberg would bring home second. Third place would be Ruben Martin. Douglas Lundberg would go on to win the second race with Jacques Bonnet finishing second. Third place would be Gabor Zaleski. Advancing to the finals would be Douglas Lundberg with 18 points, Gabor Zaleski with 16, Jacques Bonnet with 10. The final qualifier would be Michael Larson with 9 points. After a great event at Brno, the VWTCC drivers had to cross the English Channel to the south side of England in the city of Kent. Here you will find Brands Hatch and its 9-turn, 2.301 mile or 3.703 kilometer long circuit. Race 1 would begin with Roman Meyer sitting on the pole, followed by Nick Ansel and Stoffel Van Dorn.
Meyer goes wide and Ansel passes for the lead.
Van Dorn had fallen back to 4th, but here he is working his way past de Grave for 3rd.
And that is exactly how they would finish, with Nick Ansel taking the win.
Followed by Roman Meyer in 2nd and Stoffel Van Dorn in 3rd.
Race 2 would see Rasmus Talley in the first spot with Thomas Jensen in 2nd.
The field goes green and they look good into turn 1.
But then cars start colliding.
And more carnage, with Nick Ansel ending up in the wall.
That was our race winner from the last race, now missing a front splitter.
Von Bommel tries to make a pass on Jensen for the lead, but Jensen holds on.
And again, but this time, Von Bommel makes it stick, but Jensen gives him a nudge and takes back the lead.
And now it's Van Dorn giving Jensen a nudge, and again until finally Jensen goes wide.
Von Bommel goes through for the lead, and Van Dorn moves into 2nd.
And that's how they would finish, with Von Bommel taking the win.
And Van Dorn and Jensen rounding out the podium.
Advancing to the live competition will be Martin von Bommel with 15 points in first place, followed by Stoffel Van Dorn in second with 14.
Roman Meyer would take the 3rd spot with 13 points. The final qualifier for Brands Hatch and the Seat will be Nick Ansel with 12 points.
Next up, the Honda.
Taking the top spot in qualifying and sitting on the pole is Thomas Baca, followed by Guy Edwards and Corrali Hajdi.
A clean start once again by the field, and immediately Bochka and Edwards start to get some distance.
Feria gets into Kajdi and allows Courtney Smith to cruise into third with ease.
And with little action in the top three, they would come in led by Thomas Bochka, Guy Edwards in second, and Courtney Smith in third.
Race 2 would see Simon Trebek on the pole with Feria on the outside.
They would hold their positions into turn 1 after a clean start.
And then the American, Courtney Smith, gets spun coming out of turn 1.
After an uneventful first race, the field was bumping and banging all race long.
This resulted in Edwards smashing the wall.
Then a spun-out car that collects not 1, not 2, but 3 cars.
Edwards gains 4 positions right there and finds himself back in 5th.
After finishing 3rd in race 1 and running a strong 3rd place here in race 2, Courtney Smith's engine lets loose.
Somehow Mike Mock and Karali Kajdi hit him before the cars ended up off the track.
After many battles and many crashes, Jason Pitts would win the race.
Guy Edwards would take home second after many battles, and Mike Mock would round out the podium.
Advancing to the live event in the Honda class will be Guy Edwards with 16 points, Jason Pitts with 13.
And in 3rd place is Thomas Baca with 10 points and Tony Gonzalez with 9. Now we move on to the Chevy brand.
Taking the pole in qualifying was Karsten Hornenbaum with Henrik Horvath on the outside and Benjamin Klick in 3rd.
On the very start of the race, Horvath makes his move and takes first by the first corner.
The field would string out from there and Horvath would go on to win.
Karsten Hornbaum finishes second and Benjamin Klick took home 3rd.
For the second race, we would see Terry Harmer on the point and Julian Moreau on the outside row 1.
At the start of race 2, it's Moreau, and this time he gets a jump and moves into the first spot.
While Dekanek and Gozen fight over 3rd place, they run into the back of Harmer, now in 2nd.
Dekanek inherits 2nd place and Harmer maintains 3rd. But Gozen goes around and loses many positions.
3 wide fighting over 2nd place with Horvath already up to 4th place.
Horvath takes over 3rd place.
1st, 2nd, and 3rd all fighting it out. Moreau, Dekanek, and Horvath.
Dekanek takes a look to the outside but ends up leaving the door open and Horvath takes over the 2nd spot.
Horvath then takes the lead and Moreau falls back to the 3rd spot.
And that is how they would finish. Henrik Horvath winning, Dekanek in 2nd, and 3rd place going to Moreau.
That would give Horvath the top position going into the live Brands Cup event, winning both races and earning 20 points.
Karsten Hornbaum would take 2nd with 14 points, followed by Michael Dekanek in 3rd with 11.
Benjamin Klick gets the final invite position in 4th with 10 points.
The final Brand Cup race will be in the BMW.
Race 1 would see Bastian Barch take the pole in qualifying. Vincent Stahl would sit on the outside.
And Marco Shade would be the 3rd qualifier for race 1.
The field goes green and all looks well.
And at the end of the day, it would be Bastien Barch taking home the win. Marco
Schad would improve to 2nd place and Marcos Koninen would bring home 3rd.
For race 2, Mikko Konanimi would be in the top spot, followed by Samuel Liebert.
Everything looks good going into turn 1 as the field goes green.
And in turn 2, Konanimi goes into the wall.
That moves Liebert into 1st and Von Ay into 2nd place.
Konanimi and Koninen battle over 3rd place. After the touch, Konanimi ends up into the wall.
Samuel Liebert would go on to win the race, followed by Henrik Von Ay.
Marco Shade would round out the podium, and when all was said and done, Bastien Barch and Mario Shade would tie for the top invite positions with 14 points.
And Henrik Von Ay would be in 3rd spot with 12 points, and in 4th would be Marcos Koninen with 11.
They've now completed 3 of the 5 events to get to the finale at Monza. The semi-final events at Brno and Brands Hatch were a huge success. We now have 6 new drivers that will be invited to join Valencia podium finishers Greco, Eckert, and Vladovic in Monza for the finale and grand prize on October 4th. In Brno, Nils Najux won the event in his BMW, followed by Danny Engels and Daniel Struck, who were also in the BMW. Congratulations, guys.
I had a good start and could pull away from the field from the beginning. And then when I had like 3-4 seconds, I didn't push too hard and just kept my pace and keep cool.
Then we had the Brands Hatch semi-finals last week on July 26th in the UK. A name you will hear in the SRT race report, Bastien Barch, took home a victory in, take a guess, a BMW, followed by 2 more BMW drivers, Marco Schade and Hendrik von Eyck.
Be able to win again in Monza for the Grande Finale.
Sounds like the VW sanctioning bodies needs to look into adding some weight to those Beamers to give the Seats, Chevys, and Hondas a prayer.
So that catches us up on the Brand Cup events and the Virtual World Touring Car Championships.
Yeah, finally, and we apologize for getting so far behind, and we definitely, well, hopefully we won't do it again. So next up we have a GTR2 series that we covered earlier on Inside Sim Racing, Sim Challenge, and Mark Vandermullen is the guy that produced this segment.
And he used a new voice from the show, or for the show, Andrea Lopez.
All right.
It's been a while since we've caught up with the series at Sim Challenge. Although their season ended a while back, it was definitely worth reporting on here at SRT. We left with the series heading to the UK for race 4 at the legendary track of Donington. For the first time this season, Christian Smyzak managed to have a trouble-free race without PC, connection, or other problems. He dominated the race from pole position and was clearly in a league of his own, picking up his first win of the season for Twister Racing. Behind him, an intense battle for second place was decided with just a few laps to go. Stefan Morelli, defending his position in a fight with Bastian Bartsch, clipped the back of Roland Enstrom in the Melbourne hairpin, and both drivers went off. This handed second place to Bartsch, while his Virtual Games racing teammate Enstrom hung on to third. Next up was the event in Valencia, and instead of the expected sun in Spain, the drivers were treated to a rain-soaked weekend. The race started with Evgeny Marinenko with his first GT pole position. However, it did not prove to be much of an advantage as the track was still wet at the start. This sent him off the track early, costing him the lead. After Christian Smyzak ran into PC problems again, it was Wilfred Vandenbrink who took the lead for a while. The rain started again and Enstrom seemed to have the advantage in wet conditions and charged back to the front. Behind him, his teammate Bastian Bartsch was trying to hold off championship leader Mathieu Prévost, but with just a few laps to go, Prévost found a way to pass him. In the remaining laps, he chased down Enstrom and pushed as hard as he could, but Enstrom was too strong and took the Valencia win. With 2 races to go, the series headed to Belgium. If the drivers thought that last weekend the weather was bad, they were in for a real shocker when they saw the Spa-Francorchamps weather forecast: more rain. Different tire and pit stop strategies made for an incredible event where the lead and conditions changed multiple times. The race in the end was decided when the rain really came down heavily and Roland Enstrom managed to pass Wilfred Vandenbrink and claim his 3rd consecutive Sim Challenge Spa win. Behind Vandenbrink, Belgium's Julien Moreau finished 3rd in his home GP. With Prévost finishing 4th, Enstrom closed the gap in the championship to just a sliver heading to the final round at Anderstorp. Unfortunately, the biggest news happened before the start of the last race, as Roland Enstrom was going to a real-life event in Anderstorp, and therefore Mathieu Prévost was crowned champion before the green flag flew. Thunderstorms were present during the entire event, and with the drivers forced to stop multiple times for tire changes, the lead in the race changed many times. In the end, it was Dmitry Kofanov who came out on top without any errors in the remaining lap. After a very impressive race with the right decisions at the right times, he claimed his first ever win at Sim Challenge. Mathieu Prévost ended the season in style with the 2nd place just ahead of Bastian Bartsch. As mentioned with Roland Enstrom not able to race the last event, it was Cyber Racing's Mathieu Prévost who took a well-deserved Sim Challenge 2008 GT Driver Championship. Virtual Games' Roland Enstrom finished 2nd in the championship, with Go Speed Racing's team driver Wilfred Vandenbrink claiming the 3rd spot. In the team championship, Virtual Games Racing defended their championship with 560 points. Cyber Racing brought home 2nd with 536 points, and Go Speed Racing had 422 points for 3rd. We'll be covering the final 4 races of the NGT class on the next edition of the Race Report by SRT.
Man, dude, that rain those last few races, brutal.
brutal is right. I hate running in the rain.
Yeah, I do too, man. It definitely makes things a lot tougher. So, what's up next?
Well, next up, we have some Live for Speed coverage. First up, we have a video from a longtime contributor to SRT, from Nolan Scott with Round 5 report from IGTC.
That's right, and also from Live for Speed, we have a new contributor to the show in the Live for Speed world, Tony Corkin, who has something to show us from the UF Baby R series. Roll it. The 2008 International GT Championship began the second half of its season at the fast and sweeping West Hill International Circuit. Leading up to the race, some teams struggled with tire choice, fearing that the course's high-speed corners would destroy soft compound slicks. Many leading teams began the event under a big question mark, crossing their fingers for the best. In qualifying, points-leading Core Racing took the pole with Nolan Scott at the wheel, besting Speedo Racing's Timo Hirvonen by just under 1/10 of a second. My3ID Gaming and Cone Dodgers filled out the second row, while points contenders the Danish racing team could only manage a 9th in their all-wheel drive FXR. The race started cleanly, and Corey Green led the majority of the first stint for Core Racing. He was pursued constantly by Speedo's Hirvonen, and 50 minutes into the run, Hirvonen made a spectacular outside pass in turn 1 to take the lead. But just a few minutes later, his right rear tire let go as he entered the 180-degree final corner, sending him into a spin. As he slid back across the racing line, he collected second place green. Both Speedo and Core were able to continue, but the Speedo team would receive a stop-and-go penalty for unsafe track re-entry, dimming their hopes. The only safety car period of the race came at the midway point when the Core entry tangled with the spinning car of Elias Racing while running in second place. It took 7 minutes for track workers to extricate the car from the gravel trap, leaving the team several laps down and effectively ending their chances. After the safety car period, the race became a four-way battle between Speedo, Cone Dodgers, My3ID, and the second Core car. Hirvonen and Core number 2 driver Phil Diaz would swap the lead back and forth in a thrilling 20-lap battle, while My3ID steadily ate away at both of them. In the final hour of the race, the battle continued as Diaz retook the lead from Hirvonen's teammate Josh DeFabrio with 30 minutes to go. But a miscue on Diaz's final pit stop meant that Speedo was able to cruise uncontested to their second win of the season. My3ID took second place and the Core team car took a bittersweet third. However, after the race, the My3ID team was found to have exceeded the 75% rule, which states that no single driver may drive more than 75% of the race distance. The penalty for this infraction would drop them to third. In light of the primary Core car's troubles and Speedo's win, Speedo retook the points lead in a commanding fashion. They are now 20 points up on the Danish racing team, who managed yet another top 5 finish in 4th position. Core and Cone Dodgers, who were first and second coming into this round, left in 3rd and 4th. With just 3 races to go, both have a lot of work to do if they want to catch Speedo. The UF Racers Club have announced details of Season 2 of the UF Baby R Fallout Cup. This league utilizes an intake-restricted UF GTR racer which promote very competitive close clean races. This class of racing has also been introduced into the popular CTRA X system with a dedicated race server of its own. In Season 1, the Fallout Cup attracted over 40 drivers to its 18-race schedule, with the battle for the championship honors taking place on 7 different racetracks. The 18 races would produce 7 different race winners with a total of 15 different drivers all reaching the podium. With a total of 4 race wins, the Season 1 Drivers' Champion, Matti Pessonen. The runner-up spot went to Tony Corkin, who was the only driver in the field to finish in the points in all 18 races. Corkin would also be featured in the Team Championship, racing with his teammate Justin Parker in the Slot Car Racers team. The pair would win the championship at the final race of the year from the Pirate UFR racing team of Pessonen and teammate Roger Salama. For Season 2, the league has attracted over 50 entries. This means that drivers will have to battle it out in a demanding pre-qualifying session just to be able to make the starting grid. This season's racing format will consist of a 15-minute sprint race followed by a longer 30-minute feature race. Also on the calendar will be a few endurance events where extra points will also be an offer. Be sure to check out the latest qualifying positions and race standings on the Baby R Fallout Cup website at conceptracing.net/babyr.
Well, it's been a while since we've run some Live for Speed, huh?
Yeah. Next up, though, something that we did run in, not too successfully, I might add.
It's the SSCA 6 Hours at Silverstone recap right after these messages.
On July 12th, the Simulated Sports Car Association Endurance Series raced for 6 hours at the challenging venue in the UK, Silverstone. If you're not familiar with SSCA, they run a mod build especially for this series called Enduro Challenge. It is made up of ALMS style cars in an LMP and GT class. 39 teams started the race in 2 classes, going after 2 Thrustmaster RGT force feedback Pro Wheels, as well as over $500 in cash. The race saw the lowest attrition rate to date since SSCA's transition to R-Factor, with 26 of the 39 cars taking the checkered flag. The surprise of the day was RC Motorsports in the LMP class driving the Pescarolo C60. After a late race black flag while leading, RC driver James Picard had to then chase down the go-speed Audi R8 with Mr. Excitement at the wheel, Andres Corrali.
Through sector 1, it looks like Corrali might have locked up the tires a little bit. Guess who's here? Hello, Andres. My name is James. Started to pull in, then he does it. Lap traffic, heavy lap traffic in front of Corrali right now. This could play well for James Picard. Andres trying to work through the traffic. This is a battle for the lead in the midst of lap traffic.
Corrali tried all he could and even threw some blocks in there to try and hold off the car.
He's going to go to the inside of Kinsley. Through Stowe, we're 3 wide for the lead. And we have a new leader. Oh, they touch! And Corrali's going to take the lead back out of Stowe. Now the run to Vale. Picard's going to pull out, but Corrali's going to block. Corrali locks up. They both lock up the tires. James locks up left. Oh, they make more contact. Through Club now. The run to Abbey, it is a drag race between the Pescarolo and the Audi R8 down into Abbey, and Picard's got him right now, but Corrali's got the line. Corrali runs him wide. James is still getting run wide, and he yields the position to Corrali into the stadium. Corrali with some mad blocking skills right there to hang on to the lead. After 5 hours, I don't blame him. These guys have been trying and pushing for so long, and now the deficit reads nothing. Oh, Miller got a bad run off the corner, and Corrali yields the lead to Picard. But Corrali's coming back, he hit him! That could have been the race right there, folks. Using the lap car as a pick has been the key to this race so far, and James
Picard ended up being the stronger of the two, and in the end,
RC Motorsports and James Picard, Daniel Smiktala, and Klaus Kag will win the 6 hours of Silverstone presented by Thrustmaster. This race is over.
Corrali held on to the second spot with his teammate Bruno Marquez. Another C60 driven by DH Racing's Damien Dainhumain and Sean Edwards rounded out the podium on the same lap as GoSpeed and RC Motorsports. While GoSpeed had to settle for second, they now sit alone on top of the championship by only 4 points over Swedish-American, who came home a strong 4th. The GT class saw a big shakeup in the points as 3 of the top teams all had issues. Coming into the event, Orion Racing was looking to win 3 in a row and had a good cushion over Sim Racing for Holland. From lap 1, it was not Orion's day as Sean Purdy got turned around in his Aston Martin DBR9, took on some damage, and was dead last after having to pit for repairs. After suffering a disconnect after only completing 64 laps, they would finish 18th in class, taking a huge hit in the points. It seemed all the luck was on Sim Racing for Holland's side this day. It definitely took skill though as well. They sat on the pole in their Corvette C6R and then won their first ever SSCA event.
2 corners left. One final corner. Down the straightaway, Wilfred Vandenbrink, Marcel Offerman, Sim Racing for Holland. They win the 6 hours of Silverstone.
The win now put them up into a tie for first with Orion Race Team at 113 points. RC Motorsports made the GT headlines as well after struggling at Sebring and Daytona. Kevin Brents and fill-in driver Scott Michaels brought their Corvette C6R home in second, with the rare endurance team scoring their first podium with drivers Albert Prim and Robin Toll. There's 5 teams in the hunt for the GT title, with Fletch Tech, RC Motorsports, and Sim Racing Tonight all less than 20 points back of Orion and Sim Racing for Holland. With only 2 races left to go in the championship and the roster full for the race at Fuji, you don't want to miss the next event on PSR TV. Go to SSCARace.com to catch all the details and watch the 10-hour race on September 6th.
Man, I'm going to be a lot more prepared for Fuji in September.
No doubt, we sucked.
Oh, man. Speaking of sucking, I didn't do so well in the first iRacing season, did I?
Neither did I, but we didn't really get a fair shake at it, did we?
It was actually the second season. First season was done early on in beta, but yeah, that's another thing I'm going to be preparing for. Actually, I'm going to do the Skippy Season 3.
Well, before we move on to Season 3, why don't we go ahead and recap Season 2?
It's a good idea.
Starting out in the Legends Cup, Tony Legren won the title narrowly over Darren Stevens. Third place went to Jeff Sharp, and Chad McNeese took fourth. The fifth spot went to Josh Carr. In the Advanced Legends Cup, Tony Legren took that title as well, but this time he beat out Dustin McGrew. Third place went to Gregor Hutu, followed by none other than Dale Earnhardt Jr. Once again, it was Josh Carr rounding out the top 5. The Solstice Challenge champion was Shannon Whitmore, with Josh Carr this time taking second place. Chad McNeese took third over Darren Stevens in fourth, and Mike Cadillac took fifth. In the Advanced Solstice Challenge, Frosty St. Clair took the top spot over Josh Carr again in second place. Dion Verders took third, and Joseph Jordan took fourth, with Adam Hoffrecht in fifth. Going back to the oval racing in the late model division, Chris Sherborne was the champion, followed by Brad Davies and Steve Sheehan. Darren Stevens took fourth, and Dale Earnhardt took fifth place. The top road series this season was the Skip Barber Series, and Gregor Hutu was the #1 finisher there. Artur Turku took second over Josh Carr in third. Frosty St. Clair finished fourth over Darren Marsh, who finished fifth. There were also some time trial champions crowned for the first official season, with Gregor Hutu winning both the Skip Barber and the Advanced Legends title. Ilka Happala won the Advanced Solstice time trial, and Chris Sherburne won the late model TT championships. Congratulations to all of the champions, and what will be looked back on as the first season in the iRacing era of motorsports. Well, you gotta like seeing that. A good friend of ours, Frosty St. Clair, he won the Advanced Solstice Challenge.
Yeah, great guy, and it was great to see him do that. And maybe we can give him a run in the Skippy Series if he runs it next season.
We'll see about that. Well, last but not least for the show, a series that we've been covering all season, FSR. This report submitted by Stuart Fields.
Great series. Let's see what's going on with Bruno Marquez.
There you go. Formula Sim Racing headed to Hockenheim, Germany for round 10 of the World Championship. This track has been known to provide plenty of overtaking, and this year would be no different. Roy Kolb was comfortably fastest in qualifying, taking yet another pole position. It would be an all-twister racing front row with Kolb's teammate James Anderson starting alongside. The start would pass without drama at the front, however, further down in the order there were several incidents. The twister domination at the front would be broken on lap 9 as Anderson spun at turn 2. He recovered quickly but fell to 4th place behind Bruno Marquez. A few moments later, Marquez ran wide on the exit of turn 1 and Anderson was back up to 3rd. Marquez quickly repassed the twister driver before Anderson finally moved ahead for good on lap 13. David Greco then began to put Marquez under pressure until he slowed dramatically, apparently out of fuel. He managed to coast to the pits, but many positions were lost. Meanwhile, the Twister 1-2 was restored when Anderson caught and passed Knitz at the hairpin. Patrick DeWitt quietly put in a great performance after starting down in 21st. After passing Marquez in the pits, he set his sights on 3rd place, and on lap 44 he took the final podium position after passing Knitz. The final pit stops almost reversed the order again, but DeWitt was able to narrowly hold on to his position. But the day belonged to Twister Racing, and Kolb in particular. The German took victory in his home race and the lead in the championship. Marquez managed to hold Kunzmann back in the closing laps to take 5th place. In the driver's standings, Kolb now has 58 points, 4 more than Marquez. Kunzmann holds 3rd place ahead of a tight battle for 4th between Saxon and DeAngelis. The next stop is Hungary on August 10th, and you can watch that race live on PSR TV. And that wraps up our first SRT Race Recap Special. Hope you all enjoyed the show.
Yeah, and we'd like to thank all the people that contributed segments to this show, and can't wait to see what those guys come up with for our next one.
So I'm Sean Cole for Darren Ganji, SRT.
See you guys later. Good. Cool.
Woo! Oh.
Yeah, I missed seeing what's been going on with them, so let's roll that puppy. I hate puppies, stupid. Let's roll that again.